I'll bring the panelists up now. Jesse's already here. You want to move or grab one of the chairs? You're welcome to that. Bob Vaez, our President and CEO of EventMobi, Theresa Beenken, CEO National Speakers Bureau, and Victor Paan, Director of Digital Services, Freeman AV. Hello, welcome. All right. So we've already got some of your questions populated. And the one that seems to be most popular at a tie right now is, how would you suggest incorporating technology on a budget? And that's tied currently with, what do you do when tech goes wrong? And I think that's something we all share. That's a really good question. Don't panic, I guess. And then can I turn it over to the panelists for what would you really do when tech goes wrong? And then the number one question, that's actually the number one question right now, is things flip back and forth.
I'll start it. We've got the sound, that's great.
Yes.
I'll start it from the perspective that we come from, which is the people side of events. And I think while technology can enhance your events at the core, it's about the people that are getting together. And so you can have the confidence that even if something goes wrong with the technology, you've got an engaged audience, and if you've got a speaker, you've got a professional speaker up front that that knows how to work through that. We had a speaker event just this month, actually, where the laptop died, and so the video technology side of the presentation didn't work, and the speaker just kept on going. And I noticed it even this morning with Jesse, when some of the survey questions were just taking a minute to come up, not even, but we're impatient. Jesse just rolled with it, started talking over it, and so professionals can help you through that process, I think.
Thank you, Theresa. Any other comments?
Yeah, I agreed with that. I think, technology, as you said, is there to enhance the meeting and kind of, what I'd like to say is kind of draw people together and elevate your experience. But, the one-on-one context, I think Jesse touched on this too, is that meetings and events, are very important. We all want to come out, engage, talk to one another, learn about each other, and have that discourse, one-on-one. So I think when technology does fail, it's stay calm, carry on. Don't panic, and typically what you want to do too is maybe have some fail-safes tied in with your core technology. So a lot of the time we'll have a kind of a throwback or a go back or a fallback to be able to continue on with the event in some scale or scope that makes sense. So I think that's really it, is to really engage and figure out if something does go wrong, and we do that all the time, where do we take it from there to continue the scope and scale. So. Thank
you, Victor. Anyone else want to add to that?
So obviously you reset. We saw that in the video, right? So, so as a technology provider, actually a lot of our staff go on site. It's pretty nerve-wracking for event planners and even for technology providers. But I think it goes back into having option A, option B, and I think we've gotten a lot better to analyze failure points. So sometimes failure points is in data and Wi-Fi. Sometimes failure point is in the device. Sometimes failure point is actually in the human being that's not capable to kind of execute that element of technology experience. And it's not just the AV. I think in a lot of events that stopped printing show guides, what do you do if people don't know which sessions to go to? So I think these are important to always have option B. But without really dragging this answer, I think technology has to augment, for events, has to augment the real life experience that we want to create. We want to connect people. We want to make sure people meet each other. So as an example, gamification is a very good example. The vendors in our industry are divided. Some are creating gamification tools to increase the usage of the app. And I think that's super wrong. Your gamification design actually has to be to increase the engagement of your attendees with the event. So if you have that concept in play, even if your tool around gamification fails, but then you have other options to be able to connect people and kind of carry on the mission that you're trying to portray. So I think as long as it augments, then it's easy to come up with option B.
Thank you. Next question that seems to be the most popular for the group is, how would you suggest incorporating technology on a budget?
I think the easiest answer in that regard is to use the technology that participants have brought themselves. So on a basic level, that might be a smartphone, where if all the participants are bringing a smartphone, well, then all of a sudden you've got access to an app, you've got access to social media, you've got access to the camera that's used. I've been to a lot of events in which at the end of every day, they'll have a slideshow of all the photos that people have taken that day that they've sent to an email. So even when you have registration, to also have, what technology do you have? What technology will you be bringing? Is certainly one way to keep those budgets down, but still leverage technology in a really interesting and dynamic way.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're dealing with, speaking of social media, if you want people to, kind of engage and take photos and encourage people to take photos in moments, you can go to a photo wall. So gone are the days of having to have, not knocking any photographers that are here doing their job, but, you can integrate the professional photography with, your attendee photography and really create like a whole kind of moments and telling different stories that are floating through the visual elements. So that's an inexpensive way to go, and people are using their own devices, and that really kind of augments and upscales an event.
And I would say when we talk with clients about how to extend the impact of your investment in technology, and so we have conversations with meeting planners about how can you use those technologies pre-event to help encourage conversation, get people interested, have the speakers talking a little bit about what they're going to share, and then on-site, and then post-event as well, so that you really see the impact of your investment pre, during, and post-event.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, one thing is also to take into consideration is sponsorship for a lot of technology. So look at your partners and people that you're involved with, and you can really drive down that cost, so your budget stays the same, and you're bringing in partners to sponsor that technology and do so through engagement and also driving your partner's brand as well. So that's important.
Yeah, so I was just going to mention sponsorship, but I think the other side of it is the event industry, as you guys know, it's $250 billion industry, but it's not growing. We're seeing a 3% growth year over year. It feels stagnant, but actually what is changing is the budgets are shifting from what they were or you are spending on different things. And so it's important to kind of, when you think about budgeting for technology, to see what kind of improvement technology is bringing to your events. What is it replacing? As an example, if you have digital signage at your event, do you really need to print 25 banner stands? Maybe we just need 3, and that budget can actually go to your tech. So the shifting of budget, I think, is an important consideration for a lot of our clients, and that's they justify, but sponsorship is a huge portion of that.
Thank you. This is such a great question as well. Is how do you deal with the gap in age? So those who are tech savvy and those who are not, and those preconceived notions of maybe fear that we bring to bringing technology to our meetings. I'm a mom of an 11-year-old. He's masterful. He'd dig this entirely today and know how to set it up and do it. Those of us who are maybe a little more reticent to jump into this technology, and that our audiences really span the gamut of tech savvy and not. So how have you had to address that and deal with that?
Well, I'm personally a big fan of the concept of reverse mentoring, which is kind of a fancy way of describing intergenerational dialogue, where you match up people of different generations so that the young person is able to help the older person understand technology, and the older person helps the younger person with maybe being responsible, or maybe with business skills, or maybe with presentation skills. And I would love to see an event that did that from the outset, both as a networking exercise, but also as a way to deal with these technology questions. Because you do see that sort of different levels of literacy, which sometimes aren't even age, because there are some young people who are just as frustrated with technology or alienated from technology. But to start an event by facilitating that kind of matchmaking that not only allows people to make new friends, but also creates a support structure so that you have that kind of hand-holding, you have a place where you can ask those questions, I think can be a very powerful way to kind of level off the generations when it comes to their curiosity or comfort with using this kind of technology.
Thank you.
So maybe I'll share a couple of examples that are more practical of what we've seen. Love that example. I think what we do as well, we sometimes have this app genius sort of staff that go on site, and they promote the use of the app, because I think promotion and education is a huge part of removing that barrier. The other part of it is making it accessible. I mean, not everybody might have devices, but leaving an iPad on a screen, it allows access if somebody's not comfortable and somebody beside them can help. But it really comes back to, I think, value. If people might say, oh, okay, well, maybe you have clients that run surgical conferences for doctors that are all over 60 years old, and they say, oh, well, they never use their smartphone. Well, you have to provide value, as in why would they want to use the smartphone? The point is not using the smartphone. The point is, can they use the smartphone, and does this add value? Can they answer questions live? Can they see the abstracts from the other doctors that are presenting at the event? And so there's a motivation for people that are not tech savvy to want to take that action and use technology. And I think that motivation is a lot stronger for us. Technology has become a lot simpler. I mean, grandparents are, Skyping their kids and they're on Facebook right now, which is why the kids are going to Snapchat, but that's a different story. But I think it's the motivation that really drives the usage of technology. I don't think we're defined by age, and technology has become simpler.
No, agreed. I think putting the technology in people's hands and it starts to take off. It may not be in one day, it may not be one event, it may not be, but as you bring in new technology, the attendees will start to utilize, and people will start to, I think social media, walls and stuff are a great way to get people doing that, there are some still, some groups where we're doing things like that, and some folks aren't into using hashtags. They don't have a Twitter account, so you can still add an SMS text to that feed as well. So if someone's comfortable just texting, they don't want to get involved in doing, you can add that on. So, and then people see the limitations of what they're doing, so whatever other folks are doing with their app and using Twitter, and then become more engaged. I think again, it's a learning process, and not everyone, depending on age, it's not age dependent at all. But again, putting technology into the hands. I know, like my mother-in-law, as soon as she got an iPad. I mean, I've never seen anyone run around the house just holding an iPad in front of her. I mean, amazing. She uses Skype and way more than I do. So it's and probably a little more savvy with jumping in the moment and just taking that moment than I am. So so again, not age dependent, but I think getting that technology in front, using it, will just slowly it'll amalgamate and pull everybody in, and you'll get there. But that's really it. It's just use it. Get out there. Don't be scared of it. Use it.
Making it fun, kind of like you're working on more with gamification, then it gets people engaged and they see how they can connect with other people or win their points or whatever it might be. So yeah, it'll be good to see this in action later.
And your points are well taken, is that we make it the new norm. This is just what people do now. And so how do we now bring that into the meeting environment so that the message can be communicated in a fun way, entertaining way, in a way that we're used to consuming our entertainment.